Alrighty, cruising right along. We are all the way to test hint number 3.
Yes.
So we're still working out our technical issues here, figuring out how to chunk these a little bit better for you.
Right.
Alrighty, number 3, how the modern periodic table is arranged. Okay, this is the difference that Moseley made in the arrangement of periodic table. They go by increasing atomic number. Not the mass anymore. The mass does end up, generally increasing.
Pretty much.
But we fixed all the glitches that show up here and there with mass, and things go in atomic number order. Simple count from 1 to 118. Number 4.
Number 4 says, identify the man who is the founder of the modern periodic table. It's not Moseley. Moseley tweaked it. But the founder of the modern periodic table is the namesake of element number 101, Dmitry Mendeleev, the Russian chemist.
Yes. And of course, we've inflicted the song upon you in class. You might want to go back and listen to the song because there's all sorts of test answers in the song.
There are.
Nice of us to post that.
Oh, awfully.
I know. Number 5, the test hint says why Mendeleev left spaces in his periodic table. Now remember, at the time, in 1869, when Mendeleev was kind of finalizing his table and getting it all together, there were only about 63 elements known, not almost 118. And nobody had a chart on the wall of their lab to look at and say, oh, okay, I think this one fits here.
Nor did they know anything about valence electrons and protons and atomic number. Right.
But they realized that things were behaving the same way and they should be get together in certain groups and things like that. So the fact that Mendeleev left spaces, is that where we are?
Yes.
Mendeleev left spaces meant he realized that there's another element that should go in there. And Mendeleev was awesome because he predicted like 20-some properties, like the exact density, the melting point, boiling point,
really,
all sorts of stuff.
Really close. Like some of his calculations were 3% error.
Oh yeah, like
I mean, tiny. You guys will love to get a 97% on this test, and that's basically what he was doing.
Right. So he especially left spaces for scandium, gallium, and germanium, and predicted all of their properties, and then we discovered them later on. All right.
Number 6. What periodic means on the periodic table? Well, periodic is regularly repeating in a very specific and predictable sequence. And we have looked ad nauseum at lots of graphs that go up and down. And then they repeat again, up and down, and down. And you have seen this over and over again. Periodic, regular repetition, a very predictable pattern.
Right, and the word periodic shouldn't be that tough, like even if you take it out of the chemistry context, because you go to class certain periods a day, and you go to the same class at the same time interval each school day.
Do people subscribe to periodicals?
Periodicals.
Anymore that come either every week or every month?
Right, periodically. Okay. Number 7, test hint number 7, why the periodic table is so useful. This is the best piece of equipment for a chemist to help them with anything they need to know. And I mentioned to my kids in class that, by the end of this chapter, you should just be able to glance at these big periodic tables on the wall and say, oh, that element's in the D block, it must have properties like this. It's a metal, it's going to have some extra electrons, and all sorts of stuff. Maybe not be as reactive as the ones on the end. So it allows us to predict things, allows us to predict what the new elements that we're creating now are going to be like.
It's going to be a survival guide for the rest of the year here in chemistry.
When things start to bond and interact, and so we'll be able to tell what's going to happen in a chemical reaction, in many cases, just by where the elements are on the periodic table.
Number 8, the differences between metals, nonmetals, and metalloids, with examples of each. So pick a typical metal.
Wait. We have...
Oh yes. Where are the metals on the periodic table? They're over here. Most of the elements on the periodic table are metals. Non-metals here, the upper right-hand corner, not very many of them. And then, of course, we have metalloids along that stair-step line. Typical properties, those are in the book, they're in our notes.
You know what a metal is.
They're all over the place.
Shiny, conducts electricity.
Yeah.
So we got metals on this side. Well, that marker's not showing up very well. And non-metals on this side of the stair step. And what if we said to you, the element phosphorus, is that a metal, a non-metal, or a metalloid? You should say, phosphorus, I gotta find that on my periodic table. Boom, it's up in this area. So it must be
Brittle, not a good conductor, dull in appearance, sort of like me. Doesn't react with acid. Typical non-metallic properties.
right. So if it falls in this range, you know, boom, non-metal. All right, number 9. The physical characteristics of metals, non-metals, and metalloids. I guess we've been kind of getting ahead of ourselves there and answering 2 of these at once.
Right.
So if we say something is a really good conductor of electricity, that's going to be metal.
A metal.
If we say it is
A gas at room temperature.
rock, those are
Typically
over here.
those are over here, and the periodic tables that you guys have that you were given at the beginning of the year that are posted on the walls in both rooms,
Right.
that we give you to use during the test, they're even color-coded.
Yeah.
The red ones are gases,
Gases.
and those guys are all over here.
Well, hydrogen, but you know, hydrogen's
Yeah.
exception to everything,
It's,
so
yeah, it's
we count it everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. No, test it number 10. The hint says the noble gases. Well, what I've noticed is that coming in, you know, at the beginning of this chapter, my classes, everybody seemed to know where the noble gases are.
That's
And last
fantastic.
chapter, like, you know, they totally remembered all that stuff from their 9th grade class. Column 18, or Roman numeral H, but column 18, noble gases. So if we asked you, are helium, neon, and radon, what kind of element, you should say, oh, well, they're right there, gotta be noble gases. So that question is not gonna be anything tricky at all.
Yeah. Number 11, the number of elements in each period. So, well, you have to be able to count. Well,
Right.
first you have to remember periods up and down, periods across. Well, sentences end in periods, so we're going across. You read across from left to right. So there's your period, and just count them.
Right,
Count them. The first period only has 2 elements.
right?
The second period has 8 elements. What happens when you get down here, Mrs. Berry?
Well then, you know, when you're down there in period 6 and 7, we gotta zigzag down here to the F block and include those as well. But you should be able to look at the table and say, oh, these 2 periods have the same number of elements, and there's several different options there.